Now, I've never been pregnant, okay? I just want to get that out the way. And not only have I never been pregnant, but at least in this lifetime, I will most likely never be pregnant. However, I have had enough secondhand experiences when it comes to pregnancy to understand that in the process of pregnancy, there is what is called the first trimester or the first phase of the pregnancy where there are, certain symptoms, certain manifestations that take place, and then there's a second and the third. And what I've come to realize is that within those phases, there is a point in time in the very beginning of the pregnancy when nobody else technically knows that the individual is pregnant besides themselves. Like until, let's say, they spread the news, right? They give the word. Like until they flash that little stick in front of somebody, or they send the text, or they make the call. Until that moment, the only person who has an inner knowing of the pregnancy is the individual who is going through the experience. Now, why do I use this as an example for us manifesting our desired reality? Well, it's simple. In the beginning, when you first have this greater vision for your life, this thing that feels so real to you, yet it is not yet manifested in your physical reality, this thing that you desire for yourself, but yet has not shown itself in a tangible way where people can see it themselves and, and point to it and say, oh, this is real. When you're in those very beginning stages, you are most likely going to be the only one who actually knows that you're quote unquote pregnant. Therefore, to the rest of the world, you may actually seem, God forbid, delulu. If you're like me, okay? If you go out there telling folks about the Grammys that you see yourself being awarded and the platinum plaques, okay, and the stadiums filled to the top of the rafters, if you tell people these types of things without them able to point to anything in your physical reality, they will most likely point out the fact that you may just be delusional or maybe damn near absolutely batshit crazy. I mean, the types of people that would believe something to be real that is not actually there, that is not actually seen, smelled, tasted, and touched, surely there must be something off about them. And so when you are that individual who has a vision for your life that is greater than anything that you can currently see or anybody else can currently see, yet it is real to you, you are going to go through a period where you're the only one who holds that vision. Now, sometimes there is a rare situation where we have one or two people, or maybe a small cohort of individuals who can see the vision because they are aligned with that vision, or they can see the vision because they see greatness within you, right? I'm never going to discount that. But I do have to make this clear is that in more cases than not, that's not going to be the reality. In more cases than not, even those who can see that you have potential or that you can, do something greater than anything that's been done within your own physical reality, anything that's been done within your own community, your own family nucleus, your own society even though they may see potential in you, they can't see just how far you can see. They don't know just how far you can take this. And I know that you do, but you oftentimes belittle your own vision because when you start getting asked questions, when people start, probing and interrogating and wanting to get the details of, okay, where is it? Or what are you doing in order to get there? Or whatever else the questions may be, this thing is real. And you're on your way and you're on the path, but you can't explain it to the next person. You can barely explain the vision, let alone how it's manifesting and unfolding. Like I remember when things, started just quote unquote magically happening, which was really just, the coincidences or the synchronicities starting unfolding in my life, towards my greatest vision of music and creation at the highest level. And, I started manifesting just incredible experiences. I started having this bridge of incidents, as Neville Goddard calls it. And one thing after another would happen, and I would try to explain this to, maybe family or, the closest people to me. And there was obviously some, level of freak outedness or mind blowedness, but they would always try to kind of quantify or justify it in some physical, logical, quote unquote, rational way, right? except for maybe my girl and maybe one or two other people along the way. Yeah, again, I can't say, oh, nobody got it, right? So shout out to my girl, and shout out to them folks who really saw it. But even them, they can only see as far as they can see. I'm the one who was given the vision. I'm the one who was given the baby, in essence, right? And so the reason I bring this up is because many of us become discouraged based upon the opinions of others, more so the opinions of others that are pointing out the fact that this thing has not happened yet, right? And so it is our job to preserve our dream and protect our dream. Shout out to Coach Bobby Bluford. Make sure to check out his content. He's an incredible content creator, an incredible speaker, just incredible human being overall, right? Uncle Bobby is what I call him. And, he oftentimes talks about, like, you must protect your dream. You must treat your dream as if it were an infant, right? Not just a child, like an infant, like a newborn. You have to treat it as such, and you have to protect it and preserve it. And so that means not exposing your baby to certain things. You're not going to bring your baby out into, certain public atmospheres or around certain individuals. If you got a level of discernment, you're not going to bring your baby around that uncle or that auntie or that whatever. Like, you're not going to place your baby in front of a screen where there are horrific things taking place, because you have a high prioritization of the safety of this child, which is physically as well as mentally and emotionally, right? You feel a sense of responsibility. And this is the same way we have to view our visions for our life, our greater dream, because these are precious to us. They are part of our very essence. I believe it's the actual truest versions of ourselves that exist within the greater dream that we have for ourselves, the greater vision. Like, if you, view somebody who let's say was born in circumstances, in conditions that were the complete opposite of what they have now become, right? Like right now, it's 2024, August 10th, I believe today. So if you're watching this in the future, if you're watching this in the future, what's up from the past? So we're currently watching the Paris Olympics, and Snoop Dogg is the American ambassador. He's a representation of America. If you don't know who Snoop Dogg is, it's like 100, 200 years later. Look the dude up. You'll crack the hell up. That's all I'll say. So Snoop is a guy who was born in Long Beach, California, not in the best circumstances, not in any sort of wealthy environment, etc. And yet when you look at his life at 50 years old, as opposed to at 15 years old, it's like he's living in an entire different reality, simply because he is, right? Where the entire world is really at his fingertips, and he has manifested a reality that I believe was always the true reality. It was always the truest version. Most of us accept or have gone through a life up until a certain point that was dictated by the fears and the insecurities and the warped perceptions of the ones around us. We just kind of took the world as it was, and we quote unquote faced reality. We were so afraid to be seen and perceived as delusional, or as somebody who was a little cuckoo, a little crazy, right? As being weird, which, by the way, in its original etymological meaning, weird means one who is able to create their own destiny. So, like, you actually want to be weird. You want to be the weirdest person that there's ever been, because it means you are in literal control of your destiny, right? That's a story for another time. But again, we live in a culture, in a society that promotes, that validates, and that incentivizes you to follow the beaten course, or to follow that status quo, to go along just to get along, right? Those things are incentivized. It's not necessarily incentivized for you to be something other than your environment, to be something greater, to manifest something that, is never been seen before or heard before, whether it's in your own family or your community or the greater society. That's not something in the beginning stages that is actually egged on. And though there are those cultures that have more of a propensity towards it, at a mass level, because so many of us have been indoctrinated with, we have been conditioned with this low self-esteem, this low perception of self, this devaluation of self, and we believe ourselves to be nothing and not deserving of the goodness of life. Because there's so many who are walking around with that mentality, There's a lot of haters out there. There's a lot of people who don't want to see your baby grow up. They don't want you to have the baby in the first place. They don't want you to have a greater vision because they feel that they cannot create something greater than their own reality. Not understanding that when you do, your success means their success. Not only does it mean their success because, they can be inspired by it, but literally the more successful people there are, the more successful people they will be. That's how that works. We used to have a handful of billionaires in the world, and now there's a multitude. We used to have, a small cohort of millionaires, and now there's millionaires everywhere because the pie doesn't get divided. Like, that's what we think. We think from a scarcity mentality, which is a learned behavior. It's a repeated pattern of thought, right? So we think we just have this one little pie, and we got to cut the pie up. And then if you don't get some pie, then you just don't have any pie. And so we fight tooth and nail to make sure that we're getting some pie and the next person's getting some pie. Not understanding that every time somebody creates, they're actually creating a new pie, right? When I create a new video, when I create a new song, I have created a new pie. There's a greater potentiality now. There's an expansion of wealth. There's an expansion of prosperity within me creating. When we're in the competitive mindset of you versus me, of I'm going to win and therefore you will lose, or if you win then I lose, when we step out of that frame, which only works in like sporting arenas and things of that nature, but even there I was thinking to myself, like, if you're in the NBA, regardless, you won, right? All of y'all, even if you don't win the championship, if you want to go by metrics of, let's say, money made, there are individuals who are in these major league sports who have not won a championship in years, and yet these are the highest paid individuals in their sport by far. So I would think that's winning, So again, this competitive mentality that we've been taught, which is like a zero-sum game. If you win, I lose. If I win, you lose, is a farce. It's a lie. It's fake news. And we have to get rid of that mentality in order for us to see that our vision is a vision of expansion, is a vision of things, increasing and for more for everybody. And so are the visions of others. However, the point of this video is to bring it back to ourselves, to say, when you are the one who has that vision, you must preserve it and protect it. I don't mean you have to fight for it. You don't have to go off and pop off on people. But what I'm saying is sometimes it's better not to even speak on it. If you don't believe that you're in a place where you can speak on it and have people, kind of go in opposition towards it in some way, or shed their insecurities upon it, don't even talk about it. Like, me and my girl have this thing, and she's actually the one who uses this terminology, and now I do, which is, throwing your pearls to swine, which is a biblical thing, right? Both of us came out of religious faculties and entities and such cults. Just call it what it is. But there was a lot of great information that we learned while in those, cults. And, the scripture, do not throw your pearls to swine, is essentially saying, like, don't throw something valuable to those who cannot see the value in it. It's not saying that people in our lives are pigs and they don't deserve nothing good. Like, no, it's just simply saying, if you have something that is precious and valuable to you, then preserve it, keep it as such, right? And give it only to those who can truly value it, who can see the value in it. That's not saying the person is not valuable. It's just saying that it's like if I gave somebody who does not care about watches $1 million watch, like they genuinely don't care about a watch, it will have little value to them. Like I remember seeing a video back in the day of a rapper who got his son a watch, and his son didn't care about those sorts of things at all. You could see this kid just stood out. The other kids, they were into, the J's on, this, that, Balmain jeans, whatever. But this little boy, he didn't care. And his dad gave him this watch, and it was probably a few $1 million, if anything, right? And the boy gets the watch, and he looks at it, he's like, oh, okay, like, cool. Imagine being the dad, and it's like, damn, probably felt some type of way that day. But you can't make somebody value something they don't value. So you can't have somebody value what is precious to you when they don't have a value for it. They don't have a value for anything greater in their life. Their value is for what they're experiencing right now. Their value is for a false sense of security, the little piece of safety that they get from, staying small. and dimming their light. They get value from being validated by others. And so living in a way that is in alignment, in accordance to everybody else, as opposed to in alignment with their own highest self. That's what most people are living as a reality, at least up until this point. I believe we are having a conscious shift where a majority of the population is going to step into a different reality. And, you know, it's a beautiful thing. But at this very moment in time, you're going to find yourself in a place where there seems to be so much resistance towards the thing that you even know is good for those who you want to share it with. It's like, you know, I'm trying to tell my family members or whoever it may be, you know, of my aspirations and the things that, you know, I have a greater vision to do, which are going to change their lives drastically, and they can't see it. I remember when I think Chris Tucker, right? If you're 200 years from now, look up Chris Tucker. I would suggest starting with Rush Hour 1, 2, and 3, then get to Money Talks, and then get to Friday. And, you know, Chris Tucker, shout out to him. So he has a story of, you know, obviously growing up as this kid who was just, you know, had a natural tendency for humor. And, you know, for a very small minority, maybe 1 or 2 people, maybe one teacher or whatever it was, they saw this kid as just like a comedic genius, right? Before they stepped on the stage, before he went on screen, anything, right? But for the rest of the people around him, they saw him as a nuisance. They saw him as a distraction. They saw him as distracted. They saw him as somebody who was going to make nothing of their lives. In fact, he had family members tell him that, man, he was going down the wrong path and was going to make nothing of his life because he was just a clown, right? Now, fast forward to, I don't know what the year was, but Chris ends up in a movie called Friday, gets paid like $5,000, but he blows up, he takes off, he is, you know, he's all over the place. So shout out to Ice Cube for creating those opportunities for those brothers and sisters. Then he ends up in a movie called Money Talks, which is one of my all-time favorite Chris Tucker movies. And then after, like, he gets paid whatever he gets paid. Then he finds himself in the trilogy, one of the probably greatest sequels ever, which is Rush Hour. Now, Rush Hour 1, this man, Chris Tucker, was paid $10 million. And this isn't like, this is $10 million back then. So maybe adjusted for inflation, maybe that's 100. I'm playing. That's probably like 20 million or something like that, right? He was paid $20 million at the age of like 25, 26, whatever he may have been at the time. I may be wrong on that fact, but I know he got paid 10 million, right? And all of a sudden, it's like his entire family was just the greatest cohort of supporters. And oh my goodness, we always knew you would make it. Oh, Chris. Like, I don't want to give too much away. Watch his, like, you know, his stand-up, and he talks about this whole thing. It's hilarious. But, you know, as uncles, oh, Chris, I don't know what I'm going to do about these bills. And Chris is like, I don't know what you're going to do either. You know, his mama comes to him, oh, Chris, we rich. We quit our jobs because we rich. And he said, y'all better get y'all jobs back because I'm rich. Y'all ain't rich. Y'all better call them companies. Like, that's the type of time and he was on. And again, for me, obviously, he, you know, he quote unquote took care of his people or whatever it was. But, you know, it's like these are the same people who are literally taking a big old doo-doo on his dreams. These are the very same individuals. These aren't some other characters. No. This was the very same people who said, bruh, like, you're making nothing of yourself. Now, he had a vision for what he wanted to be and what he could be. And he continued to egg that on, and he continued to give his energy to the thing that nobody around him could see, even the people who loved him or claimed to love him, right? But they were afraid for him because they could only see from their own vantage point. They couldn't value his humor until the rest of the world valued his humor. Think about that. It's like you got this gift, and you know, and this ain't even no shade or no call out or anything like that. But it's like I got folks close to me, blood, like true blood, like the original blood, you know, who this type of information is around or was around him at some point every single day. They would hear me speaking in the other room. They would hear me continue. Like, I was there. I was in the environment. But yet, you know, there was no real value for that. And then all of a sudden, the rest of the world values it. And it's like, wow, you know, it's valuable. And I don't even get mad at folks like that anymore. Because, again, how can I make you see something you can't see within yourself? How can I ask you for a glass of tea or a cup of tea and you don't have tea to give? I can't be mad at you for that. I made a whole video about that. Stop getting mad at people for things that they do not have. It's going to be a waste of your and their time. Everybody's time is getting wasted in that sequence. They can't give you what they don't have. So if they don't have that desire, that ambition, if they don't have a mentality for a greater life, if they don't have a belief that they could be anything other than what they have been thus far, then that's just gonna be what it is. And it's not your job to shake them and wake them up. It's not your job to make them realize what you are or what they are. You can inspire them, but the greatest way you inspire somebody is by being the thing. If I told people all day about, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, and then they look at me and I'm doing nothing, I can't inspire them. But I don't have to say that anymore. They see me doing what I do. They see me putting out the content. They see me creating, these masterpieces. They hear it, they see it, they experience it in real time. And so, people who are maybe not even anywhere close to that inner circle will start to then believe in your dream. They start to see the baby, right? Oh my goodness, wow. How far along are you? Oh, right here. I'm about 6. I'm about 3. I'm about 4. I'm about 5. I'm about 6. I'm about 7. I'm about to blow. And then at a certain point, everybody can just see like, oh, it's like Chris right before, rush hour, right? Money Talks. We could all see like, oh, Chris is about to blow. He's ready. That water's about to break immediately for this man. Again, this is a metaphor, not literally. So, come on, guys. You are on the verge right now. So wherever you are in your process, know that you're the only one who has to know. You're the only one who has to believe. Like we have this thing of where we want everybody to be on board because we believe that the more on board, then, the more real it is. But in reality, that's a lie. That's fake news. I'm telling you right now, the only person that has to believe in your dream is yourself. That's the only person who's required. Like there's a requirement of somebody to believe in your dream. There is. Don't get that twisted. But it's not anybody out there. It's this one right here. And sometimes you may have somebody who believes more in you than you do, okay? And their belief becomes your own belief. But stop waiting on somebody else to believe in you and instead begin to cultivate that within yourself to see what you are. And self-belief is a practice. It is something we get back to doing when it's been kind of sucked up out of us throughout a lifetime of experiences, throughout a lifetime of conditioning. I had to get myself back to a place where I truly believed in myself again, to know that, man, I can do it. Like, this is really me. I was born to do this. I remember an interview 50 Cent did way back in the day, and he was talking about how when he first came out, because Get Rich or Die Trying, that was like one of the biggest albums ever, especially in the world of like hip hop and stuff. But I mean, globally, it was just out of here, okay? And he said how, people were talking about how arrogant and cocky he was, with the music and, and his whole persona. And he said, people don't understand, like, for so long, for so many years, I was the only one who could believe in myself, who did believe in. So he said, they don't understand how much I had to cultivate that self-belief just to even get here in the first place. So they perceive it as arrogant. They perceive it as cocky. They perceive it as, you think you're somebody special, whatever. And it's like, yeah, because you were the only one who could get to that place in order for this to happen. And that's going to be your story. I'm probably going to do a whole video on that. Like, you really have to have a sense of what the rest of the world will deem as arrogance or cockiness in order to get to that place. Because first and foremost, that's your natural state of being. Like, if you believe in God or source, or like sources and saying, oh, maybe you can, oh, I don't think you can. Oh, it's not. No, source is like, man, you the one. Like, you are him. You are her. Period. It's done. It's done. It's done. Like, that's the voice of source. It's not telling you, oh, maybe, hopefully, and, maybe if you just, get lucky. No, it's none of that. It's an absolute certainty. It's an absolute groundedness within that self-belief. And so stop fearing what anybody else got to say about your dream, because it's not theirs. And funny enough, it will end up benefiting them once you actually begin to manifest it in your physical experience. They get to enjoy the fruits of it if they're smart enough, if they're wise about it, right? Some of them, if they just keep their mouth shut the whole time and just see what happens, you'll probably keep them around. They'll be family and friends, and they get to be on the cruises and on the jets and doing this and doing that with you. They get to have the whole life just because they keep their mouth shut and didn't, allow their insecurities to overcome them, didn't allow their envy to overcome them. But again, back to you, 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 back to you. You must preserve that dream And you are the only one who has to believe in that dream in order for it to become your own manifested reality. Period.
Myself, I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 365, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising. They see your light shine, that's why they so frustrated. Even the sofa in Nova Scotia will win the bagels. I couldn't get a